think there's a couple other people that are going to be jumping in too here within a few minutes, but we're going to get started. Just a quick introduction. My name's Dan with Admiral Consulting Group. We provide Dynamics 365 solutions like Business Central, and we help on the implementation, licensing, and support side. This is Mark Hamblin from InsightWorks, and there's an application that a lot of people use, a lot of clients use it. It's well known in the industry to increase your or improve your warehouse operations. So that's really what we're going to focus in on today, and we wanted to run through this with you guys, make sure you understand everything, and then if you do have questions, feel free to stop and raise your hand, or you can put it in chat or ask a question, um, you know, uh, and we'll get it answered for you. But we want to get started and make sure that you guys have a good understanding of how to improve the warehouse operations. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And so I'll be going through a couple of key things on the warehouse side. I'll cover off, some basics of warehouse configuration in Business Central. We're going to keep that light, because you're going to bug Dan about that once we're done. And we're really going to focus on sort of, automated data collection and things like that, ways you could use, sort of external applications to help with your Business Central warehouse operations. So to get started, what we're going to do, a little bit about, who we are and what we have. We're going to talk about, why you would want to make some changes from a, warehousing perspective. And then we're going to jump right in and look at a demo. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to, ask a question in the GoToWebinar or the Teams a question box there, and we'll be able to help you out, hopefully on the fly. All right, so let's jump in. A little bit about InsightWorks. So, we've got a ton of applications out there for Business Central and Nav if you're on an older version, whether you're in cloud or on-prem. And, Admiral will come in and help you implement these things or get you more information on any of these applications that you may be interested in. Now, we do have a number of free applications as well if you're on, Business Central Cloud and on-prem. So things like WMS Express, we'll talk about later. So the free warehouse management, drag and drop, scheduling, all sorts of things like that as well. All free apps that you can get access to. And again, if you have any questions on these things, just check with Admiral. I'll be able to help you out. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the warehouse management side of things. So sort of first of all, there is a bunch of stuff you can set up in Business Central that we'll talk about when we get into the demo, as far as setting up how your warehouse operations work. And one of those key things about that is regardless of how you set up your warehouse, in other words, there's 50 different ways you can set up a Business Central warehouse. You can have advanced warehousing, basic warehousing, all sorts of combinations of those. But one of the key things, regardless of how you've got Business Central set up, is you're going to be dealing with data. At some point, you're going to be dealing with that data in Business Central. And, regardless of what you do, or whether it's production or warehouse or whatever, you've got data. And the typical types of data you're dealing with, what do you have in inventory, what POs do you have out there, what are you shipping, all of that kind of stuff. And that's all in Business Central, and you need to actually also manage that within your physical environment. And that went one too far. And one of the key things about this data is it can be a competitive advantage, right? So you can actually use this to improve customer service. Like, somebody phones up, where's my stuff? If you have that information, that, you turn that data that you have into information and can tell people, yes, it's on the way, or I've got this purchase order outstanding for it, or it's just received, or it's in production, or whatever. That can be, really handy as a competitive advantage, but it has to be timely and accurate. And the problem is, for it to be timely and accurate, you have to sort of, capture that information in the physical world. because, we've got a purchase order in Business Central, what's actually happening to it in the real world. So you need to take those physical transactions, like, hey, I just got a purchase order in the back door, I've received it, and we need to convert that into electronic form. So, the problem with that is most people are still working on paper. A lot of people are still working on paper in the warehouse, right? So things come in, you've got handwritten stuff checked off on your receipts or your purchase order receipts. If you're doing production stuff, you're writing things down. What serial numbers did I use, or lot numbers, things like that. You're out in the warehouse picking off paper, all of those sorts of things. You have to now take that and move that into Business Central so that you have that timely and accurate information. The problem is keeping that physical and virtual world in sync. And, if you're doing paper-based stuff right now, you're probably familiar with all of this, right? Working on paper and then having to transcribe that into, Business Central is a challenge, right? Keeping that virtual world in Business Central in sync with your physical world is a problem. You lose the paper, or it takes a while for people to type that in, or, they can't read the handwriting, or whatever it happens to be. And that's expensive, right? That can be very expensive. Number one, you've got somebody there having to retype information about things that have already happened. You don't have that timely information to relay to customers or vendors, or, internal personnel or anything like that. It becomes a problem. So the way we solve that, ideally, is with barcoding, right? Now, there's a number of ways we can do this automated data collection. RFID, there's, even vision systems now, all sorts of things, but barcoding really is the cheapest and most accessible technology. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is how do we use barcoding to solve those problems we have in the warehouse, right? And what that'll do for you is, again, dramatically improve that accuracy and timeliness of that information coming in, improve the efficiency in the warehouse or the shop floor, and get you that data that you need immediately. And there's a lot of things you can do. I just threw this point at the bottom here. I'm going to show you some typical devices, but you're going to have hands-free devices. If you have pick carts and things like that, you can use tablets, all sorts of stuff. The hands-free stuff is becoming a lot more popular because there's really very little additional effort required. You've got your hands free, and you hit a button and go beep, and you've executed your pick, as an example. So anyway, there's a number of things like that we'll look at in a minute. Now, in order to be able to use barcoding, you're going to need some additional capabilities within Business Central. Now, standard Business Central does have some barcoding capability built in. If you're running an Android device or an iOS device that's newer, you're able to actually use the camera to scan barcodes. And if you have a dedicated barcode scanner, you can actually use a dedicated barcode scanner to scan information directly into the Business Central application that runs on those devices. And that's great. For some use cases, that works excellent, but it's kind of limited to things like serial numbers and lot numbers. What we want to do is use an add-on, like an extension application in Business Central to enable some of these functionalities. So when we talk about that, I'm going to focus on fulfillment. Barcoding is sort of the linchpin when we're out in the shop floor, but there's some other applications out there that sort of round out that whole process of, how do we pick things and get them out the door? So I thought I'd go through this slide real quick and just talk about some of them. So there's an order fulfillment worksheet. And if you're in a situation, and just to back up a little bit, the title of this really is improving your warehouse operations. And one of the things that we see, at least on the fulfillment side, is, warehouse supervisors or shipping managers or whoever is responsible for figuring out what needs to go out today really have a tough time, right? The key question to them is, what can I ship today? That's what they want to know. What can I ship today? You may have back order situations. You may have priorities on orders, things like that. This order fulfillment worksheet answers that question. It tells you what you can ship today and then automates the creation of the pick tickets, the shipments, everything else you need to get that product out the door. So if you're in a situation like that where your warehouse manager or shipping manager is constantly trying to figure out what they can get out the door today, you need the fulfillment worksheet. It'll automate that process almost entirely. Now, once we've used that and determined what we're going to pick and ship today, it goes out to the warehouse management solution. And we have two available there. And again, I mentioned, standard Business Central you could potentially use, but it's quite limited. What you likely want to use if you need something that, is budget friendly is this WMS Express. So that is a free warehouse management solution. In other words, you can add barcoding capabilities to Business Central for no software cost at all. And if you just need sort of the key functionality in the warehouse, and that's things like receiving, picking or shipping, bin movements, assuming you use bins, and inventory counts, this has all of that. And you can plug it in and use it, and you're off to the races. And Admiral can help you set that up, or you can contact us, but you can use it. If you need something, with more capabilities, like picking and packing, production activities, assembly orders, you need to extend it, add your own applications through our application wizard and our AI application builder, all that kind of stuff. You might want to go to Warehouse Insight. But ultimately, we're going to generate picks, and then we can use barcoding to fulfill those picks or to scan the product in for shipping. And then once we've picked it out of the warehouse, we can send it off to one of our shipping solutions. And we have two. One is Dynamic Ship. That's the full version. It allows you to do LTL, parcel, international, all sorts of stuff. Very robust shipping solution. As an example, or to further indicate how well it works. Last year, customers purchased $75 million worth of labels through Dynamic Ship. So it's widely used, high volume, mid volume, whatever you want to do. Now, if you need something simpler, or you just want something simpler, Ordership Express is free. And what that allows you to do is any domestic parcel shipments directly from Business Central. And what it will do is generate your shipping labels, grab your tracking number, grab the label cost, all that stuff right within Business Central, all automatically. You don't have to go to any external shipping software, and you can do all your parcel shipments directly from Business Central. So anyway, that's kind of the flow. We generate the picks and everything automatically. We execute those using barcodes, and then we ship them out the door. Okay. All right. Now, to do this sort of middle piece, the scanning and everything else, right, the barcoding, you're going to need to look at some potential hardware. And so, we talked about dedicated wearables or handhelds, and, these are the typical style of device that we're using. There are what's becoming a lot more popular now are devices that don't have the physical keypad. They look like phones. They're not much bigger than a phone, but they're a barcode scanner, and they're often half the cost of one of these big guys here, these big rugged guys. But anyway, there's a bunch of hardware, and everything now runs Android, and then you just decide on what's going to work best in your particular environment. All right. And if you have any questions on hardware, you can go to our website. And there's a buying guide on there and a whole bunch of options you can look at and decide what may or may not work for you. All right, now with that, what I want to do is just jump in and give you a little bit of a demo on the scanning and some of those other tools that I mentioned. So we're going to jump into Business Central here. And the first thing I'm going to do is just bring up the location configuration. So within Business Central, the first thing you need to do if you want to start sort of optimizing your warehouse operations is you need to configure your warehouse location appropriately. Okay, now I've got a whole bunch in here, and I'm going to start with the silver one here for fun. Now, what you need to do is you need to go out and figure out what your best practice physical process is for your specific environment. And then you're going to come in here and choose the options in here that match as closely as possible your physical process. So it's not really the other way around. We don't come in here and say, I want to do this, 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 and you change your physical process to match it. You're going to pick the way you work best physically in the warehouse, and then you're going to choose the options here to match that. And it's important to understand what these options do. So that's where, again, you'll go to your partner, Admiral, that'll help you out, but I'll give you a quick overview, just some examples. So what I've got all of these options turned on. And what this means is if I've got this require receive turned on and require put away, that gives me a two-stage receiving process. So I receive everything on something called a warehouse receipt. And then after I've received it, I put it away into the warehouse. And I have that enabled also because I have this thing called bin mandatory turned on. And this, I should have started here. This is your first decision point you need to make. Do you want to track inventory by bin or not? And what I mean by that is I can still create bin locations and everything for a warehouse, right? I can come in here and say I've got all these bins in my location, and I can leave them non-mandatory. And what that means is I can still say item A could be in bin 1, 2, or 3, and I've got that information. I know that item A might be in one of those 3 bins. If I turn this on, I now have very specific information about item A. I know that there's 3 of those in bin 1, 6 of them in bin 2, and none of them in bin 3. Okay, so what bin mandatory does is enforces the use of a bin anytime you do a transaction. So the system knows exactly which bins have which items and how many of those items. Once you've done that, you can sort of enable some of these other processes. So in my demo example that we'll go through, what I've got is something that I usually don't recommend. I've got, as soon as we find it here, oh, I went past it, this guy here. I've got the directed put away and pick turn on. That's advanced warehousing. That enforces all of these other options to work a specific way. But I've got all the options turned on, so I do a 2-step picking process as well. I first pick everything, then I drop it off at shipping, and somebody else gets it out the door. But again, you will want to go in, decide what options you want to turn on or off to match your physical environment, and then you can start working. All right, so that's as much as I'm talking about base Business Central. But again, that's sort of your key thing. Figure out your best practice physical process, match the Business Central settings to that process, and you'll be in good shape, whether you go paper-based or barcode scanning. Now, once I've got that all set up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the order fulfillment worksheet here real quick and just show you how this guy works. So what it's doing is it's gone in and it's looked at all my sales orders in the system, and it's told me what the status of those orders are. Now it's doing it by the planned shipment date by default. And what that means is the oldest orders are going to get first crack at the inventory. So if we look at this guy here, well, the first one, it says the pick is created, it's already active in the warehouse, and we're good to go. But this next one down here, what it's showing us is all the items on that sales order or transfer order that need to be shipped and what I can actually ship today. And I'm allowed to do a partial shipment on this because we've got the shipping advice set to partial. But it's saying this first item here, this LS2, I need 9. I have 21 available to pick. So it's allocated 9 of those 21 to this order. The next order that needs this product is now only going to have 12 to choose from. So it's doing this dynamic allocation on the fly automatically to figure out, based on the date in this case, which orders can ship today. Right. So later on, if I have another order that has that LS2, it's going to again have fewer to choose from and so on all the way down the line until we end up in situations where we just don't have a product to ship and it's going to show up as not available. So what this does is it takes all that guesswork out of, again, what can I ship today? It's going to tell me exactly what I can get out the door. And then if I'm happy with this, I hit create picks and it creates all the picks and shipments for me and I'm done. And if I don't want to do this interactively like I'm doing here, I can run this in a job queue so that every half hour it's just generating new picks based on my new orders or new receipts that I've gotten in for orders that I can now fulfill all my back orders, things like that. So there's all that automated back order management, fulfillment management very quickly and easily. Either automated or interactive like this. And by the way, I did mention it's by the shipment date, but you can do it by anything. You can do it by state you're shipping to or customer or even order value here, right? If I come in and want to fulfill my highest value orders first, I come in here, you can see this order 41, there's nothing available to ship on it, all that kind of stuff. But if I recalculate now based on my new priority, which is my order value, hit recalculate, you can see all of a sudden we do have a bunch of stuff we can ship for that big order, right? Because now we're not doing it by date, we're doing it by order value. So anyway, bunch of stuff you can do there, but if I'm happy with all this, I can either come in, select a bunch of orders, hit create picks, and I'm done. It's created those picks and I'm off to the races. And by the way it creates those picks is going to be dependent on how you set up that location. right? So as I mentioned, I've got a two-stage picking process where, I pick everything, I drop it off at shipping, and they package it or whatever, get it out the door. That also allows me to do things like combine multiple orders into a single pick or split one order up into multiple picks. All of those sorts of things that you may want to do on the warehouse are going to be dependent on how you've set it up. But I can do batch picking, zone picking, whatever you want to do. All right. Now, once I've got those picks created, obviously I need to go out in the warehouse and start, picking the product. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to open up my handheld device. So this is the screen for my handheld device, and we're going to show the webcam here, and hopefully it doesn't lag too much. We'll find out in about 2 seconds. So there is the actual device that I have in my hand. And what you're seeing over there is the screen for that device. I'm just going to change the brightness so you can see it a little better. So this is the device that I have in my hand. So as I'm touching it, you see it update on the side there. And I'm going to be using this to scan barcodes. Now, what you're seeing here is the Warehouse Insight application. So this is the full version of the warehouse management solution. It has a whole bunch of applications. You can build your own applications or use our add-on catalog, which is like a marketplace where you can go in and plug in additional applications like fixed asset count or proof of delivery or, adjustments to existing apps, or you can build your own applications. You can do all sorts of stuff in this solution. The WMS Express I mentioned, which is the free version, is a limited version of this, right? It's got, it's the same thing. It just has, 4 or 5 applications on it instead of the, 10 or 20 or whatever you want to install on this one. Now, quick overview of some of the things you can do with this. I mean, basically, you can scan barcodes to get information about them. We don't care what the barcode format is. So if you have existing barcodes, great. If you have with any data you want in them, item number, serial number, lot number, whatever you like, no problem. If you're using vendor barcodes or UPC barcodes or GS1 or manufacturer, doesn't matter. We can read any barcode format. It's just configuration, and we can get that into the system. If you don't have your own barcodes, we can print those, either from the handheld or right from within Business Central. And I'll show you how that works in a sec. But anyway, we've got inquiry modes, we've got inventory counts. So advanced inventory count, especially if you're using lot numbers or serial numbers, automatically reconciles the lot numbers and serial numbers, so you never have to type them in or export to Excel or anything ever again. The receiving and put away here, I mentioned the 2-stage. I receive it, maybe do some quality inspection or something on it, and then put it away. And we do have a quality inspection module as well, just as an aside. We can do movements within the warehouse, and here's my picking and shipping, right? I pick it, drop it off at shipping, we package it up, print a bill of lading, or get our parcel labels from UPS or FedEx or wherever you want to use. We've got like 300 different carriers we support, and away we go. And then if you're doing production, we can do consumption and output on the handheld, or more often on a tablet, where you have a tablet mounted by your equipment, and you just use, the touch screen to record what you've produced or what you've used for that. Or if you're using assembly orders for kitting, right? We do assembled stock and assembled order, so I can manage all those assembly orders from the handheld device. And then license plating real quick. It's the ability to create pallets or boxes of product, specifically mixed product. So if I'm shipping something out, maybe I'm building a pallet, I can be walking down the aisle with a pallet jack and building out my pallet, and everything I'm scanning is going onto that pallet. So when I get to shipping, I know what's on the pallet. I can print a bill of lading. I can get, shipping rates, all of that kind of stuff. And whether it's a pallet or a UPS box, doesn't matter. I can do all my packaging on the handheld device if I like. All right. Now with that, let's actually just jump in and see what this thing looks like. So I'm going to go in to receiving to start with. And what we see here are all the purchase orders in the system that I have access to. And I'm just going to choose one of these guys, but if I have 300 here, I might want to come into the filter there, just, type in part of a purchase order number and bring it up. And you can see it's bringing up the standard, virtual keyboard here. Typically, I have that turned off if I'm using a physical keyboard device. So I'm just actually going to turn that off. Turn that off. Come on, there we go. And away I go. So I don't know if that actually turned off. We'll find out in a sec. But I like using the physical keyboard instead of the virtual one. Now, what I'm going to do though on this is I'm just going to come in And I'm going to use the physical keyboard. I just use the down arrow key on this guy to choose this purchase order. But of course you can, just tap the screen and all that kind of stuff as well. When I choose that purchase order, what it's going to do is load up everything I need to receive on that particular PO. Now at this point, you've got a couple of different options here. I can also come in here and hide or show any fields I want. So if I wanted to see the bin that I'm receiving to, or the variant code, or any of that kind of stuff, I can actually come in and do that. And I'm actually just going to change the size of this field here because I want to see the unit of measure. But you can come in and sort of tailor the screen to show anything you like, including adding fact boxes and everything on the side or the bottom, just through configuration. Now, back to this though, what I would typically do at this point is just start scanning barcodes. That's assuming you get all your product in with a barcode. If you don't, you can actually go in there and use the print option here to actually print barcodes right from the handheld device. So what that'll do is it'll say, hey, Business Central, print labels for the selected line or for everything on this purchase order or whatever you've got that set up to. And then you can have your own custom labels that print for those those products, slap them on the box and scan them in. Or alternatively, I could enter, manually enter quantities on any of these, right? I could choose any of these guys, either hit the enter button or use this change quantity, and without scanning, specify how many I've received, and then print labels based on the quantity I've received. All right, but either way, the ideal situation is we have barcodes, already generated for these items. And I do have a list of sort of sample barcodes here that I'm going to be scanning. This list is generated from our barcode generator tool, which is a free tool. So you can use that to, add barcodes to your existing reports or generate, lists of barcodes like this for testing or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this 1908-S. And by the way, these are data matrix barcodes. If you're doing your own barcoding, this is what we recommend because, they hold a lot of information in a very small space. So I can put, item number, lot number, serial number, unit of measure, whatever in that barcode and print it. And if I make it bigger, so this is actually like a pallet label. It's just a report, a pallet label from a customer. And this barcode here is about 3 inches square. And with the right scanner, I can read that barcode from about 60 feet away, right? So it could be sitting on the top rack or on the forks of a forklift or whatever. And I can scan that without getting right up close to it. All right. Anyway, again, we don't care what the barcode is, but I'm using these data matrix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this 1908-S, which is this line above what I have selected. The system's going to find that item. It's going to optionally show me a picture of that. And that's handy if you are doing your own barcoding, right? If I scan that, it shows me a blue chair and I've got, whatever bag of pens or something in my hand, I know I've got a problem with the barcode. I can fix that data issue before it propagates out through the warehouse and shipping and everything else. And now I simply enter the quantity that I've received, and it's updated Business Central with that quantity in real time. And we know I have, 9 left to find, and you can set whatever colors and styles and things like that you want. I just change this to red if I have a partial receipt. And that's basically it. That's our receipt. If you have lot numbers or serial numbers, I can go ahead. I'm going to scan that barcode, and it shows up with the lot number in, and it's also asking me for a package number. And the reason for that is I've enabled package tracking on this, and that package number wasn't in the barcode, so I can just manually enter that, or I could have the system generate one for me, or I could have scanned a secondary barcode for a package number. And, typically we see this in foods and things like that, where you want to track, the lot number and the carton number. But this, this could be, anytime you need to track individual cartons, you can use that package number. That's just standard Business Central. And then down here, I'm going to come in, enter the quantity, and away we go. And again, it's now stored that in Business Central, that lot number, that quantity, everything else is all done. So I can receive as many sort of lot tracked lot numbers as I like, or serial numbers, all that kind of stuff. Like I'll scan same item, different lot number. You can see it's coming in here now. It's lot number 2. I'm going to enter some stuff, and away we go. And it's tracking all those lot numbers for me. All right, so that's receiving. Pretty simple. Scan a barcode, optionally enter a quantity, we're good to go. A couple other little things. I can do things like take photos while I'm receiving. So we typically see this at shipping or receiving. where if I'm receiving damaged product, or if I scan a barcode and it's the wrong item or something like that, like if a vendor shipped me the wrong item and I scan that barcode, it's going to yell at me and say, that item isn't on this purchase order. And then I can take photos of it, or if I get a mangled box or whatever, I can take photos. And those photos automatically, and I'll just take a photo of this guy here, right? So those photos automatically upload and attach into Business Central. And now the purchaser has everything they need to start a claim on that particular purchase order, right? So I can take as many photos as I like. So those are some of the things on receiving and some of the ways it can help with your warehouse processing, right? Because now when we talk about that timely and accurate information, I know everything's accurate because I've scanned the barcode. I've physically verified that, yes, I've received those items. It's in Business Central in real time. So a customer phones up, hey, do you have any of these in stock? Yes, somebody just scanned them in like 3 seconds ago. I know I have those in stock and available for you if you need them, right? That kind of stuff. And again, if I do get damaged items, things like that, everybody's aware of it, what's going on in real time. Okay, so our physical world is matched up with our virtual world by scanning those barcodes. All right. Anyway, enough about receiving. That's really all it is. Scan a barcode, option enter quantity. We're good to go. Now, after I receive it, I do a put away. You may not want to do that. You may want to put away while you're receiving, or you may just want to receive directly into the default bins. It's entirely up to you, depending on how you've set up Business Central. Just real quick, I'm going to go into picking here, and we'll do a quick pick ticket. So now what I've got, because I'm using sort of the advanced warehousing, which you may or may not want to use, I've got what we call a warehouse pick enabled. And so that warehouse pick may be comprised of multiple sales orders, or it could, one sales order could be split up into 5 different picks or whatever it is. If you don't want to use picks, right? If you're in an environment where your picker is your shipper, maybe you don't even have bins turned on, you just want to have a list of the sales orders here that need to go out, I could choose that sales order and pick to it instead if I prefer. But I've got the picks enabled. So again, I'm going to come in, use the arrow keys. I'm going to choose pick number 4 there. Open that sucker up, and it's going to give me a list of all the items that I need to grab from the warehouse. And just as an aside, from a Business Central configuration perspective, when you have what I've got turned on, which is the picks, the purpose of doing this is it's telling me go to this bin, and it's telling me go to aisle 1 first and aisle 2 and so on and so forth. It's telling me to go to that, bin 1, pick this item, this quantity. If I don't do this, I won't be allowed to ship that item. So this verifies that I've picked the right item out of the warehouse and it's now available for shipping. That's the purpose of that 2-stage picking. If I don't execute this pick, they won't be able to ship that product. And again, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I could, pick directly to a sales order and away I go. All right, so the way this works now, because I do have those bins enabled, it's asked me to scan the bin. Well, actually, I turned that off. You can optionally turn it off. The default is it forces me to scan the bin I'm picking from, so we can, again, physically verify that the person is doing the right thing. And so what I would do is I'd walk up to the bin I want to pick from. So I scan that bin code, and we're now picking from bin 0201. And then I simply scan the item that I'm picking out of that bin to record that, yes, it will be available for shipping as soon as I drop it off at shipping. So again, I'm going to scan that 1908, which is in the picture. And again, I can optionally enter a quantity. And the quantity here, by the way, I didn't mention in receiving, but this can default to the remaining quantity on the line, which is what I have it set to. I can have a default to 0 and somebody always has to type it in, or I might not even want to show the screen. I might want to force them to scan this particular item or item type 4 times to record that. And if it is a serialized item, like it has serial numbers, then yes, I would have to scan each serial number individually. I can pick, receive, ship, everything in alternate units of measure. I've got a little calculator there if I need it. All that kind of stuff is available. But I'm just going to hit OK, and I've picked for that item, and we're done. And it still shows up, it just shows me the line with 0 outstanding, but I could use this hide completed, and anything I've fully picked would just sort of disappear off the screen. And I should mention, I mean, this is what we call a grid view screen. And I like it because it gives me a lot more context about what I'm supposed to do, right? I can see everything that I'm supposed to pick. It's like having a piece of paper in front of me, right? All the details about it. I can show additional information on here, like pick instructions or photos or whatever I need to as a fact box. As a matter of fact, on this one, if I go into landscape mode here, as soon as this thing will give me the option, if I go into landscape mode, I do actually have a fact box enabled for landscape mode. So in landscape mode, I get to see the image fact box, but you could have, again, pick instructions or shipping instructions or whatever shown in landscape or in portrait mode, whatever you like. But anyway, back to this grid gives me, lots more detail. I can sort by any criteria I like if I wanted to pick the heaviest items first or whatever I like. So I've got a lot more flexibility, a lot more context about what I'm supposed to do. But we also have the ability to show what we call a card view. And a card view, it's like the item card in Business Central. It shows me, one thing at a time, sort of captions down the left and data down the right. And that's really handy if you have like a tablet and a forklift or something like that, because it shows me, the first thing I'm supposed to do. Once I finish that, it moves me to the next screen that shows me the next thing I'm supposed to do, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of options for sort of tailoring that environment to match the way you want to work. Okay, but anyway, that's picking, scan bin, scan item, enter quantity, and we're good to go. All right, now, and of course, that makes it available for shipping. So I drop it off at shipping, and they're going to go ahead and either rescan those products to get it out the door, or if you trust the pickers to have done it right, we can ship it directly from the handheld device. Or ideally, you're going to use Dynamic Ship. You're going to go into Business Central, and Dynamic Ship is actually going to go through and allow you to do that shipping. All right, now one last little thing on the handhelds. I'm just going to go into the inventory count side of things and just show you how you would do this. And actually, if I threw a scanner, well, I wouldn't throw a scanner at you, but if I gave you a scanner right now, you'd actually be able to go out and do this inventory count on your own, I bet. So what I've done is I've gone into Business Central and I've set up that inventory count, and I've created, 3 teams here. So if I've got 3 teams of people counting, each team has a scanner, they're going to go out and count what I've told them to. So team 2, I've given them 90 things to go out and find and count. And that's probably what you're used to today. If you're using base Business Central stuff, you're generating a list of items that people have to go and find and count. And that's great for cycle counts, right? Hey, here are the 20 things we need to count today for the cycle count. Go out and find and count them. And we do cycle counts and full physicals. But on a full physical count, a nicer way of doing it is what I've got set up for team 1 here, where I'm not telling them what might be out there that they should try and find. I'm not giving them any direction whatsoever, other than saying, hey, team 1, go count those 2 aisles in the warehouse. And what they're going to do is they're just going to scan everything they find, not just looking for the things that are supposed to be there. They're just going to scan everything that's physically there. And then in Business Central, we're going to reconcile that and tell them what the discrepancies are. So the way this works, if I open up, team 1 here, it's going to start with a blank sheet because we haven't told them what to go out and find and count. And they're just going to go to the first bin they find, right? We're going to tell them, count aisle 1. So the scan, the bin that they're counting, they scan the item that they're counting in that bin, and they enter the quantity that they counted, and that's basically it. And that's how we do the inventory counts on the handhelds. We simply go in, bin, item, quantity, and in Business Central, we can now go in and it'll tell us if we've miscounted this, if this wasn't there and we've counted it, or if, whatever that discrepancy is. And then it'll also allows us to create automated recount sheets. So we can say, hey, if we're out by 5% or out by more than $100, go out and flag this thing for a recount, and it'll automatically generate a new sheet for me that gives me a list of items that have discrepancies that I need to double check. So basically, you get rid of all your highlighters and post-it notes and everything else, and you can do everything on the handheld and in Business Central. So yes, this is a great tool if you do, inventory counts, full physicals, or cycle counts. This is a great tool for using, for reconciling, for doing those counts effectively. It's very quick and easy to go in and scan everything in and reconcile it. Now, everything I've showed you so far on this advanced count, the picking, the receiving, the bin stuff. I didn't show you any of the bin movements. All of that is also available on that WMS Express. So if you've got Business Central set up the way you like, right, you've gone in and figured out what settings you need to match your preferred physical process, and it's all working fine, but you're using paper, you can slap in WMS Express for free and start barcoding everything. right? Or start scanning those barcodes to do those same activities, but get the benefit of that real-time information and physically verifying what you're actually doing out on the shop floor. Okay. Now, we won't necessarily go into the production side of things, but as I mentioned, we can do output and consumption from a handheld or a tablet or whatever you happen to be using. Now, I went through the picks. Once I've done the pick, what we're going to do is we're going to come into Business Central and we're going to ship that product out the door. So, when we talk about warehouse processes, shipping is a big part of that, right? Like it's sort of the last step in our warehouse process, and making that more efficient and more accurate, very important as well. So beyond just having a handheld device out in the warehouse to scan things, we want to be able to ship things quickly, easily, and accurately. So for that, I did mention the Order Ship Express, which right from a sales order, you can say, print me a shipping label or 5 shipping labels or whatever you need, and away you go. We're going to focus right now on this dynamic ship. And dynamic ship has a bunch of different ways you can do packaging and shipping. I'm going to show you the hard way first, because the hard way is still pretty easy and it gives you an idea. And the hard way is I'm going to rescan everything that I just picked. So I went and scanned a bunch of stuff that I picked. I dropped it off at shipping, and now the guy doing the packaging is going to rescan everything to verify that he's putting the right product in the box before it goes out the door. So the way that works, I've got a little USB barcode scanner at my desk, and just to show you what that looks like, let me just, this cursor disappeared. So just one of these little guys attached to my Business Central terminal, and this is what I'm going to be using to scan into Dynamic Ship. So up here, what I'm going to do is, somebody drops a bunch of stuff off I need to package up, or maybe I just finished.
Hey, Mark, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you see my screen or did it?
You guys are on mute, but if you have any questions, we can go into a Q&A session right now for Lucas.
Yeah, and they may not be able to unmute depending on what the settings are. And I think I got my sharing back. But,
oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so I could quickly finish up on the
Yeah.
on the dynamic ship, and then if there's any questions, we can use the chat
Yeah.
afterward.
Yeah,
and you can see the screen okay now?
Yeah, we can see it again. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to go into where I was, the package worksheet, and we're going to basically scan the order that I just picked. So I bring up that order, and there's a few ways we can do packaging now. One way is I just say, hey, give me a shipping label for UPS and we're done, or USPS or FedEx or whatever carriers you're using. But as I said, I'm going to do this sort of the hard way. And the hard way is rescanning these items and telling the system explicitly which items are going into which box. Okay, don't have to ever scan here. Don't have to ever actually even look at this stuff. I can just say, give me a couple shipping labels for a couple boxes. But it knows the address, of course. If we scroll down, it knows where I'm shipping it, and all of that kind of stuff in here. So it's got all that detail right from Business Central. One of the things we didn't set in Business Central was the carrier, the shipping agent we're using. And normally that'll default in from the customer or the website or whatever you're using. In this case, I've left it blank because that allows the shipper to decide which carrier to use. Okay, so and we'll see that in a moment. We can also set it up so that the system automatically chooses the best carrier to use based on cost when we ship this product. But the first thing I'm going to do, I've got these things to package, so I grab a box and then I scan a command that says use a box of this size. So we used a box template So if you have, 10 different standard box sizes, I'll have a little cheat sheet of barcodes at the packing station with all my box sizes. And of course, I can change these dimensions anytime I like. I just scan a command up here or use this edit button. And by the way, these commands that I'm scanning, anything that we have on the menu here, instead of having to like go through the menu and, read the weight from a scale, I can just scan a little command up at the top here. So basically the person doing the shipping never really has to touch the mouse or the keyboard ever, right? They just go beep, beep, beep a bunch of times. At any rate, I've got this box here. So the next thing I do is I scan the item that's going into that box. And now we've packed one item into that box. I can also have a prompt for a quantity, but in this case, I'm just picking something up off the counter or whatever, scanning it and dropping it in the box. So every time I package something, I scan it to verify that I'm packing the right item. Because of course, if I scan the wrong item at this point, it's going to yell at me and say, you can't package that item. It doesn't belong on this order. So this gives us that physical verification again that I'm actually shipping the right stuff. There, I'm just going to scan, that same item again. Now I've got two of those packed. I'm going to pack one of those and we're good to go. Now it's calculated the weight based on what I've packaged, but if I had a scale hooked up, I just scanned a command and it would have read the weight from a scale and populated it. Because I don't have a scale hooked up, it's asking me to enter the weight, which is fine, but that's basically it. So again, this is the hardest way possible, and all I did was I said I'm using this box size, scan what's going into that box, I'm done. Let's pretend that box is full, like we've physically packaged it up to the top. So I'm going to start a new box, so it's going to be 2 package shipment, and I'm just going to scan the remaining items into that box. So now I've got, box 472 here and 471. All the weights and everything are defined. I now just need to get a shipping label, get this thing out the door. So say, give me my shipping label. But again, because I didn't have the shipping agent set, it's going to go in and let me choose a carrier to use. And to help me choose a carrier, it's going to give me all the prices. This is what I'm paying for shipping with all the different carriers. So I've got FedEx. This is a shipment in Canada here. So I've got Purolator. So these are all the prices. This cost for shipping, that's based on my account number with those carriers. So if I've got discounted rates and things like that, that's what I'm seeing here. If you don't have accounts with UPS or USPS and even FedEx and Canada Post and things like that, there are default rates that'll come in that give you discounted rates over using the website as well. So maybe you always ship FedEx, but once in a while you have to ship UPS. Well, guess what? You'll get discounted UPS rates even without having a UPS account number. At any rate, these are all the things. This price is what we're charging the customer. They get free shipping on everything except next day air. So we can do markups, discounts, flat rates, handling charges, all that kind of stuff based on a bunch of different criteria. In this case, I'm just going to choose UPS Expedited, hit OK, and I'm going to get my shipping labels. So in a production environment, it takes less than 3 seconds, and I've got a shipping label sitting on the printer beside me. Print that out, and I'm good to go. Okay. The tracking number, all that kind of stuff goes into the sales order. The cost of that shipping goes into the sales order, so I can see if I'm making or losing money on my shipping, all of that kind of stuff, and it's all managed, and it's dirt simple, right? Scan a few barcodes. I've got my shipping labels. We also send an email to the customer with the tracking information. We've got dashboards for managing our shipping spend. We've got invoice reconciliation. So when you get your UPS invoice in, it'll match up all the quotes I've gotten to my actual charges to make sure they didn't, throw a bunch of surcharges on there and stuff. So all of that is handled just through a few beeps. But again, if I didn't want to do all of that hard stuff, I just say, hey, give me 2 shipping labels. Well, I bring up the order and I scan a command and I say, yeah, I'm shipping, a large box and a small box together. I can just read the weight from the scale. If I have a scale hooked up, or I could just type in the weight. And then I just say, get me my shipping labels. We've already chosen UPS. Give me my shipping labels, and out the door it goes. So it can be as simple as that, where I just go in and say, I've got these boxes I'm shipping, give me a label, and I'm done. Or I can actually scan everything in. So at any rate, that kind of rounds out, the whole process, right? We did, the automated pick generation with the fulfillment worksheet to go in there and tell us what we can ship today. We use the handhelds for barcode scanning to verify what we're doing and to improve efficiencies, everything else. And then once we had picked everything out of the warehouse, we used Dynamic Ship or potentially Order Ship Express to get it out the door using an integrated solution, not having to go to, you know, carrier's website or carrier software, any external software. It's all done within Business Central. Okay. All right. So that's kind of the end of it. If you do have additional questions, yeah, we can definitely answer those now. With the technical issues, we're a little bit behind.
Yeah. There was, Ryan had a question, Mark, about setting up multiple warehouse locations.
Yeah, so let me just open that up. Yeah, so you can absolutely have multiple warehouse locations. In my environment there, I had like 10 different warehouses set up in my on my handheld device. I was just working in the one, but you can work in multiple warehouse environments. You can have as many warehouses as you like set up, including what we call virtual warehouses, where you have one physical location, but you might want to segregate that out into different areas like return to vendor area or a scrap area or something like that. So absolutely possible. And then the other question on Power BI and Office 365. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
definitely. It does, Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, it's actually designed that way. So it's got the seamless integration to all the other Microsoft technology that it leverages. So specifically, Office 365, it's actually so tightly integrated, you can actually use Business Central inside of Outlook, inside of your email, and also Business Central, is integrated with Power BI. So all of the Microsoft tools, all of the Microsoft suite of products, it's a seamless integration. So that's the big benefit you get with Business Central.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Dan can show you sort of in more detail all those things if you set up a demo with him on that kind of stuff. But just to illustrate, this is Power BI, and this is reading the information from Dynamic Ship, which is inside Business Central, and kind of giving you dashboards of, you know, your shipping spend and all that kind of stuff. So this is just Power BI, reads the information directly out of Business Central and presents this dashboard. So tons of stuff: Power BI, Power Automate, Office, Outlook, and Office 365. All of
And
that is built in.
yeah, and also Copilot. So that's artificial intelligence, which is built into Business Central. But to Mark's point, for Ryan and Lucas, we showed you a little bit about improving the warehouse operations today. And you guys are welcome. If you want to email me, we can set up a demo to show you Business Central, really focus in on, the Business Central side of things, and see if it makes sense for you guys.
Perfect. Yeah, and they may be
Perfect,
still
everybody.
stuck on mute.
Yep.
All right,
All right.
excellent.
Thanks, everybody. Yep. And you know how to just, if you need to get in touch with me, just go through the list. Oh, Sarah just put my contact information out there. So feel free to reach out and we can talk to you a little bit more or show you a demo on Business Central.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
All right. You bet. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.